Obviously, we have no idea when or how the first humans figured out that cooking your food makes it taste better. Americans like to prep, grill, and marinate their meats and veggies with a wild diversity of styles and flavors, producing notably different barbecue specialities state by state, or even city by city, or neighborhood by neighborhood.
Okay, let's begin the barbecue.
Oh, hey, little guy, what are you doing? Oh, no.
Today on Weird History Food, we're going to take a look at every style of barbecue we could find across the United States. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel and leave us a comment letting us know what other regional foods you would like to hear about. Okay, make sure you have plenty of wet naps and macaroni and cheese on hand, because things are about to get saucy. Many Americans primarily associate barbecue with the Lone Star State, and not just because Hank Hill is arguably our most famous fictional grill enthusiast.
Boy, I could listen to the sound of sizzle all day long.
It's pretty relaxing.
Texas prides itself on great grilled meats, and the state has a number of specific barbecue specialities depending on what region you're exploring. East Texans, for example, frequently prepare their meats in a wood-burning pit filled with either pecan or hickory, a tradition inherited from the enslaved Africans who once worked plantations in the area. Slow cooking beef until it becomes loose and falls apart off the bone, then turning it into chopped meat sandwiches, is a standard local practice, as is slow-cooked pulled pork. In the southern areas of the region, bordering Louisiana, some Cajun influence has also seeped into the Texas barbecue, integrating ingredients like boudin sausage alongside other meat options. Cajun food is nothing if not known for its seepage. Central Texas is most associated with slow-cooked brisket, seasoned with salt and pepper before being smoked over oak at low heat for hours or even days. It's a meal you really have to schedule, like a doctor's appointment, after you indulge a juicy brisket. Here, the meat itself takes center stage. It's served minimal or no sauce, letting the smoke, pepper, smoke, and meat do all the talking. Maybe a few sides or veggies, preferences that were imported to Texas from the Carolinas. Some of this influence in Central Texas comes from the Jewish and German immigrants who settled in Central Texas and became cattle ranchers in the mid-19th century, adjusting some of their favorite pork dishes from home to utilize the beef they were now raising. West Texas barbecue is the most traditional and familiar to mainstream Americans, and leans toward favored recipes of the American cowboy and frontiersman. Here, chefs prepare meats including sausage, ribs, and chicken directly over a high heat, often fueled by mesquite wood. The use of very hot, direct flame also cuts down on prep time considerably over the slow and steady style favored in the East. Setting your food directly on fire is a delicate balance. A thin line separates barbecue perfection from lightly seasoned charcoal. Along Texas's expansive southern border, Mexican influences have found their way into the local barbecue culture. Many Texas pitmasters have borrowed techniques from barbacoa, a cooking style that originated in the Caribbean and became popular in Mexico, in which sheep or goats were traditionally slow roasted or steamed, often in a hole dug into the ground and covered with agave leaves. In the Texas version, pitmasters roast meats in a brick-lined hole in the ground, over a combination of leaves and mesquite coals. It's like the old saying goes, if you seek barbecue, you should dig 2 holes, especially if it's a big party. Before it became known for Elvis and the Grizzlies, in its earliest days, Memphis, Tennessee was an important port off the Mississippi River and became a hub for rare spices and sauces that were largely unavailable in the rest of the Americas. The local cuisine often includes these exotic, rich seasonings, such as paprika and molasses. To this day, Memphis barbecue retains a distinctive, sweet flavor. No wonder the king had a sweet tooth. Pork remains the most popular meat for most Memphis specialty dishes. Pork ribs and pulled pork are most common, though it's not unheard of for pitmasters to cook up an entire hog at once. Might as well, why stop at the pork chop? Typically, the meats are rubbed with a mixture of spices and seasonings, usually including a hefty dose of paprika, before being finished with a light mopping of a vinegar and tomato-based barbecue sauce. Though Memphis is the state's primary destination for great barbecue, West Tennessee also has some regional traditions of its own. This area is primarily notable for the whole hog barbecue, a common cost-saving practice in small rural communities across the South and Midwest. All available meat from the hog is pulled and mixed in with a peppery, acidic sauce and served with slaw on the side. This practice, which aims to utilize meat from the entire animal, was a key influence on the nose-to-tail sustainability movement. Moving up north, Chicago is home to a number of unique barbecuing traditions and techniques, owing both to the city's robust history of immigration and its central importance as a hub for the North American meatpacking industry. The south side favors cheaper cuts of meat, like beef tips, smoked over direct heat and covered in a sweet sauce. Meanwhile, the north side leans towards sausages and other boiled meats. The signature Chicago barbecue menu item, inasmuch as there is one in this eclectic city, is smoked and boiled ribs, or beef tips served with sausage and french fries. The climate along the Great Lakes is less than ideal for non-summer barbecues, leading many restaurants to make do with indoor propane smokers and wood-burning ovens in place of more traditional methods, like grills and literal holes in the ground. The most iconic of these indoor smokers is called the aquarium smoker, which you can spot jutting its smokestack through the roof of any respectable Chicago barbecue joint. As with Memphis, Kansas City became a barbecue mecca largely because of its geography, which has also thrown a wrench into several geography bees. I mean, how can it be in 2 states at once? It's like it's cheating on its taxes. A major 19th century boom town along the Missouri River, Kansas City was a key hub connecting the livestock breeders of the American West with the people buying and consuming all that meat along the East Coast. Kansas City's barbecue style was heavily influenced by the traditions of the area's Black American residents and was defined in large part by a single man, restaurateur Henry Perry, commonly known as the father of KC barbecue. Perry started operating an all-black barbecue restaurant in a racially segregated neighborhood in the early 1900s, which helped cement the city's ultra-thick, very sweet approach. A number of Kansas City's local barbecue legends, including brothers Arthur and Charlie Bryant and Ollie Gates, trained directly under Perry and adopted his techniques as their own. While it may be far smaller in terms of landmass than Texas, Virginia is nonetheless home to a number of regional barbecue styles that shift as you move across the state, like a kaleidoscope of flavors, a smoky, tangy kaleidoscope. These include sweet tomato-based barbecue sauces in the north, peculiar additions like root beer and peanut butter in the central part of the state, vinegary sauces laced with mustard in the south, and a distinctive mix of herbs and spices within the Shenandoah Valley. Regardless of the region, smoking meats is less popular here than in many other regions, with Virginians preferring to fire up their meat in a pit. And honestly, we get it. Pits are way cooler than smokers. If a fire pit is on the table, go with the fire pit. In fact, Virginians take their barbecuing so seriously, some claim that the practice was actually invented by indigenous Americans in the area. And there's actually some historical evidence to back up those claims. We know that some Powhatan tribes in the area roasted meat on wooden grills before the arrival of Europeans, and several founding fathers, including James Madison and George Washington, personally hosted barbecue-themed gatherings during the colonial era. Which means there is a possibility they commemorated the signing of the Declaration of Independence with a kick-ass cookout. So even if they weren't technically the first, these would have at least been early examples of the modern Southern barbecue tradition in common practice. North and South Carolina have a wide variety of local barbecue styles, depending on where within the state you travel. Just stay away from whoever makes barbecue in a microwave, which is technically a felony. The western portion of North Carolina is noted for its use of a distinctive ketchup-based sauce, which gives many of the local barbecue delicacies a vibrant red color. Pork is the favored meat of choice across the Carolinas, but particularly in western North Carolina, where pork shoulder reigns supreme. As with some Texas traditions, Carolinians inherited many of their techniques from German and Bavarian immigrants. In western North Carolina in particular, World War I-era German immigrants introduced a sweet and sour dish made with pork shoulder to the region that inspired much of the barbecue prepared there to this day. If you're talking barbecue in South Carolina, you should know this is pig country. The state's barbecue chefs favor pulled pork, slow cooked in a smoky pit. Whole hog barbecue is also popular in the state, because why bother debating which part of the pig to cook when you can just throw the whole thing in there? There's more variety in techniques in South Carolina, with various pitmasters and cooks employing vinegar and tomato-based sauces or salt and pepper rubs, but the region is particularly known for its frequent use of mustard-based sauces, another contribution from German immigrants. Because it's such a popular destination for tourists, and the weather in the tropics remains barbecue-friendly year-round, cookouts are a constant source of entertainment and nourishment in America's 50th state, Hawaii, which coincidentally is also kind of famous for Elvis. He just lived his life in barbecue's orbit. Additionally, because the food itself benefits so much from a diverse range of influences and origins, Hawaii is the perfect barbecuing breeding ground, situated at the geographical epicenter of Asian and North American traditions. Hawaiian barbecue preferences have been shaped as much by China, the Philippines, and Korea as the American South, giving it all manner of distinctive flourishes. Ribs are often prepared in a Chinese or Korean-influenced fashion, with rice as a popular side. And barbecued seafood, a relative rarity in the continental U.S., is a common presence on Hawaiian menus. Perhaps the most distinctive aspect of Hawaiian cuisine, however, remains the innovation of the plate lunch, which dates back to the late 19th century, when the islands were largely taken up by sugar and pineapple plantations. Workers, many of them immigrants from China, Japan, Korea, the Philippines, and Portugal, would often bring their lunches in bento boxes, using leftover rice from the previous night's dinner as a side dish. By the 1930s, professional services, called lunch wagons, popped up to prepare these cheap and easy midday meals fresh, swapping out the bento boxes for compartmentalized paper plates. The lunch wagon had a lasting effect, and not just as a devastating playground insult. Even after the plantation era largely ended, the popularity of these plate lunches continued at drive-ins and restaurants across the state. A traditional Hawaiian plate lunch includes meat, sometimes barbecued Kalua pork, but also potentially spam musubi, a hamburger patty and gravy known as loco moco, or other local favorites, along with rice and a dollop of macaroni salad, a universal dish that appealed to nearly every palate. In addition to being the home of beloved fictional characters like Forrest Gump and Cameron Poe, Alabama is the sweet home of its own unique barbecue sauce. Bama barbecue superficially resembles the styles employed in the surrounding areas. Alabamans typically prefer pork shoulder and chicken dishes, and sauces can range from a vinegar-rich Memphis style to the sweeter, more ketchup-forward sauces favored in the Carolinas. But the state's signature addition to the pitmaster's arsenal is white sauce, made by combining vinegar, salt, black pepper, and mayonnaise. Kentuckians mix things up not only in terms of preparation, but also meat choice. Mutton is a common dish at many local restaurants, marinated in a combination of Worcestershire and vinegar before being smoked over hickory wood. Other regional favorites include thinly sliced barbecue turkey and ham sandwiches, shredded pork sandwiches, and a wedged cut of pork shoulder known as Boston butt. That sounds like a guy scalping Patriots tickets. Although California is noted for many cuisines, including their fabulous pizza kitchens, it's not one of the first states you think of when it comes to great barbecue. But the central portion of the state, especially the Central Coast, has a long history of cattle ranching. And where there's lots of cattle and ranchers, you'll usually find some grilling happening as well. What else are you gonna do with those cows? Give them jobs? One popular California barbecue dish is beef tri-tip, prepared with a dry rub of salt, pepper, and garlic salt before being smoked over a bed of red oak coals. This is sometimes known as Santa Maria style, and it's often served alongside the very Californian side dish of pinto beans and tortillas, because everything tastes better in a burrito. So what do you think? Which barbecue style do you think is the best? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, check out some of these other weird history food videos.